Alright, so I'm going to move on to the rear suspension now. What I wanted to show you is you have to take this carpet and this rear plastic off. There's this little button right here you pull up on, and there'd be another one right there you pull up on. And then there's these little clips right here that are in these little holes. They're really easy to pop out. I'm really just taking my fingernail, just getting underneath and pulling them. So you're going to go around and you're going to pull off every single one of these little plastic tabs everywhere so that you could pull off the plastic. So you can see the plastic's just kind of pulling out of place there. I have to move the carpet. Pull out that. And then come in here, pull out that. Now that's going to give you access to your bolt here, your bolt there, and then essentially the top hat there. And then do the same thing over here. Sorry guys. The only difference is you have this plate right here that is in the way, and you'll have to take it off. They look like 10mm bolts. One right there, one right there, one right there, one right there, and then one back there, and then that will give you access to everything back there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. Alright, so I got the rear tire taken off, and I'm just going to walk through one of two ways, or two of two ways I should say, on how to get everything off. We'll start with the basics. First thing you need to do is remove the bolt on the rear strut coilover assembly, the 17mm, right? The other thing you're going to need to do is remove the sway bar, which should be a 14mm. And then, like I said, there's one of two ways to make this happen. One way is you're going to want to disconnect this bar all together right here. And the way you would do that is you would remove this right here. If you look, you can see the eccentric bolts on there. That's how you deal with your alignment. This one, the biggest line, is centered straight down. So if you're going to take this off, you got to make sure that you line up everything right so that your alignment isn't completely off. Now that being said, you probably, you should, or I don't know what the right word is, basically go get your alignment done afterwards, and then they'll go in there and they'll be able to adjust whatever they need to in order to get everything right, because you're going to need more camber depending on what you're doing or how big of wheels and tires you're putting on there. But yeah, so 17mm bolt right there, 14mm bolt right there. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to come in here, and you got those two bolts right there. I believe those are 14s, not 100% sure. Now, if you didn't want to remove the long bar where the eccentric bolts are, what you could do is you could disconnect the top right there, and what that'll do is when you drop the suspension, it's going to relieve all the pressure on the spring, and then the whole entire assembly will just drop out. And then the new coilover should be short enough to where you don't have to worry about removing that bar. That's the method I'm going to try to go with, is removing this bolt, these two bolts, the 17 on the strut assembly right there, and then the 14 on the sway bar. And I'm going to try to keep this bar connected. So we'll see how well that works, and I'll let you guys know, and I'll do each step at a time. Alright, so back to this. So I had to get a shorter socket to be able to fit back there, and then just once I got it loose, I have to come in here and just take it off with my fingers. And then the top nut was definitely a 17, and I was able to get it off. I just loosened it for now, but basically I had to put the camera down, use both hands, and then I was able to get it to spin. And then once it's loose enough, you should be able to kind of just start pull it off, or hand do it off the top. I don't think I'm not to that point yet though. Yeah, I'm not to that point, but basically loosen that part off, and then that should make it to where the whole entire assembly should drop. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen that now. All right, I needed to show you guys one more thing. So I got to a certain point where when I started to turn the bolt, that the center thread that it's on, it's kind of like a end link and your sway bar, where you have to put a hex key in there and turn it. I'm not sure what size that hex key is, but basically you're gonna have to put a hex key into there, and once you get the hex key into there, then you should be able to line up your wrench. And I'm just gonna keep going, and then see, it just cut itself on the car itself, and then that should allow me to just continue to take it off. And then the other thing I did, I'll show you once I'm done doing this. I jacked up the suspension just a little bit to take a little bit of the tension off of this while I was doing this. Alright, so I got the nut off, but what I wanted to show you is I lifted this up just a little so that there is a little tension off of there, and then I should be able to just slowly drop everything off, and now there's no tension on there. So the next thing I need to do is I need to pry off the bottom here. I'm going to try to use my tire iron and pretty much just kind of get it in the center and try to pull it open. If not, I'm going to maybe hit it with the hammer and try to get it off. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out the best way to do that, and then I'll film it for you. Alright, so here's what I ended up doing. I got my tire iron pretty much in there. Let's see it from this angle. Got the tire iron in there, in between there. And then it kind of pushes up on where the spring perches, and then pretty much move that. My sway bar end link looks like it's in the way, so I'm going to move that out of the way real quick. There we go. Now, this spring might be under a little bit of pressure, so be careful with that situation, but just slowly keep popping this off until it is completely off of there. I'm sorry. I'm just getting to a point where it's not wanting to push. But that's pretty much what you're going to do. Alright, so I was able to pry it off, and then there was definitely some pressure behind it, so it kind of just popped down. But it wasn't enough pressure that I'm really worried about it. I do need to finish taking out the top hat, and the reason the top hat hasn't come off yet is there's a bolt. I don't know, I was standing up. There's a bolt from underneath right there that needs to come off, and when that comes off, then the whole thing will come down. So looks like a 14, so I'm going to go ahead and try, see if that works. Alright, so I got the top hat off. This was actually a 12, not a 14. This boot was on there like that, and then there's this little rubber seal right there. Kind of hard to compare the way everything looks, but there's already a top hat and everything on here. I don't know if I'm supposed to reuse these rubber boots or not. If I am, for the most part, it would just come in here and just slide over the top. But I don't think I am, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. This rubber boot's probably what this rubber boot does here, and then I don't know if this little guy is supposed to be reused either. Looks like it's stuck on there. That's just a little foam isolator, and that's simple enough to put on there, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And then what you need to do to be able to put this back on, if you look, this says left, so this is going to be for the left side of the car, so I need to go grab the right. I'm going to go do that real quick. Alright, so I have the right side. The other thing I didn't do on the fronts that I kind of just wanted you guys to see is right here is your adjustment knob. You stick an Allen key in there and you turn it, but you can actually turn it with your hand. Fully clockwise is the stiffest setting. So what you should always do is turn this as much clockwise as you can. That's what 10 says to do. And then for the USA, the recommended is 8 clicks back, which is right in the center. So you're gonna come in here and hopefully you guys could hear the click. I'm gonna try to be quiet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm just gonna slide them in there. Alright, so I kind of have it in there. What I did is I took it and slid it down this way, and then I pulled it up, and then if you look right there is that 12mm bolt. I need to push this up and get that as tight as possible, and then I'm gonna have to line it up with this hole down here to try to get that in. First thing I'm gonna try to do is tighten that up first. Alright, so I got the 12mm bolt pretty much as tight as I could get it for now, and then what I need to do is get this lined up. You can move this around a little bit, so I'm gonna have to push it out and then pull up on the suspension, and then I think the way I'm gonna try to do that so you guys can see what's going on is I'll just use my jack. So push out on that. There we go, so the jack's putting it where it needs to be. Now everything's lined up. And then I just pull it on. Then there's a washer, and or there's this bolt right here. This bolt just pretty much is going to come back in through there and tighten up on it. So I'm going to go as much as I can hand tight, then switch over to the 17. I also want to make sure that this is pulled over up against it. I'm sure it'll tighten down, but I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything up. So I got that on all the way. You can see where the rubber hits each end. And then now I need to go ahead and get the sway bar reconnected. The height's too high, so slowly drop the suspension up. So right now it's actually not wanting to line up with the way the springs are in there, so I'm gonna have to pull down on the suspension to get the sway bar lined up, or actually the other thing I might be able to do is, there we go, I could actually pull up on it. There we go. So I got the sway bar lined up. Now I just need to put the nut on it. Here's the nut, and get that nice and tight. You could see the Allen key there, and then pretty much just got to tighten that up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And the last step is coming to the top and doing the 14mm bolts there. So let me go ahead and finish this. Alright, so I already finished up the driver's side. I did something a little different on this side though. I didn't disconnect the sway bar, and I was able to get everything on and off the way I was supposed to. And then I kind of just wanted to show you guys the way this looks. So here they are, all buttoned up, and I had those adjusted to the center of 8 clicks. And then over here it's all buttoned up. The reason I did these first and set at 8 like they recommend is in order for me to go and adjust everything, I'm either gonna have to cut holes in my paneling or take my paneling off. But yeah, I showed you pretty much how to install the front and the rear. All I got to do is put everything back together as far as all the stuff back here, and then put the car down. The one thing I forgot to do is measure what the height was on the rears before and after. So unfortunately I didn't do that. A little too late to do that now. But yeah, hopefully this works out. I'm gonna get the car on the ground, let you guys kind of see where it is, and then I'll let you know about one little other issue I had. Alright guys, so I'm 3/4 of the way done. You could tell it definitely looks lower in the back, but then there's still a little gap in the front. So I'm gonna wait for these to settle, and kind of just figure out what it looks like. Like I said, I'm 3/4 of the way done. Here's what happened. I was able to show you guys how to do the fronts, or the front right here, and then I showed you guys how to do the rear. Now the issue that I ran into is, you can see I still have a coilover just sitting there. I wasn't able to get this side done. And the reason I wasn't able to get this side done is there's the bolt that goes through right there. It's a 17mm nut and bolt, and I could not get that off at all. I have an air impact gun, and I tried to use that and it didn't work. I tried to use like a breaker bar, and that couldn't work. So I'm going to take it to a shop that maybe has an impact gun with a little more torque than what mine does, or maybe they have a better way to try to get these fitted right or off. So I'm going to have to take it to a shop and have them take off that nut and bolt, at least loose enough to where they could put it back on, and then I could go finish it up, or depending on how much they want to charge, throw that thing on for me. Really shouldn't take too long to throw that on. Like I did 30 minutes, so if they're willing to have me pay for an hour tops of labor, maybe at $80 an hour, have them just do that one, and then everything will be good, and then I'll just have to let it settle out. But yeah, 3/4 of the way done. Really wish I could have got everything done. I do like where it's sitting in the rear. I don't know if I'd really go much lower than that. It really depends on how the wheels and tires fit that I'm getting, and hopefully the dropping the other side will lower this, and then settling in will make everything lower. But yep, this is everything. Say hi, Leah. Being shy. But yeah, this is everything. Pretty simple job, other than that one hiccup that I have on the passenger side front. I would allot for about 30 minutes per corner to get everything done. Once you do one side, the other side's a lot easier. But hopefully this helps you guys out. Hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you.